So before we start with that, if you have been asked to speak, just move forward so we know that you will be speaking. But the first bill that you see on there is a bill that I've been working on. This is my third year working on this bill. All of these people have heard me beg them for their support. Have I come to your offices to ask you about sexual assault statute of limitations? Yes, she has. Every single one of you. And I've done it. This is my third year in a row that I'm going to be asking for that support because it's really important to me. So when we tell our stories, it impacts how people see the issues. So for me, I told you all that I was sexually assaulted by someone I knew, and it made me want to step up and change the law so that I could report, so people like me could report abusers in the future. So the statute of limitations would make it so we don't have a timeline on when we heal. There's no timeline for justice, that people can report when they feel ready, right? Because do we think, remember we talked about there's no statute of limitations for murder, but when you're sexually assaulted, there is a statute of limitations, even though that person committed that crime. So we want to make sure that we are passing that bill. Representative Gomez is she's holding it down for us. There's a committee hearing happening right now on this bill. So she's there. We're just going to send her some love if you want to send the spirit fingers up to her. We're sending her some love because she's upstairs in room G120. And so she is, again, holding it down for us. We want to make sure that we show her some love. And next we have menstrual equity. And I believe you are Thank you.
Excuse me, I'm a little out of breath because I just hustled over from a committee hearing as well. I am Representative Carly Katiza-Wattoon. I am the chief author of House File 2903, which is to ensure disposable menstrual products that are freely available in school restrooms across the state of Minnesota. We know well that these issues impact over half the world's population, and for too long, legislation has mostly been passed by those who are not impacted by those challenges. I'm proud to have been elected in 2018, which is a year that saw a record-breaking number of women run for public office, and I'm encouraged to see such strong leadership from youth here in Minnesota and across the country on a myriad of policies, but on this topic in particular. This issue clearly crosses partisan lines and has the potential to shape the future in ways that we can only imagine. We know that there are students missing school because of a lack of access to menstrual hygiene products. What if they miss class on a day that would inspire them to go on to cure cancer, solve world hunger, or become the first female president of the United States of America? Though hopefully we don't have to wait for that much longer. When we speak about access, it's easy to point out that menstrual vending machines that used to be ubiquitous in school restrooms, today not so much. If they exist, I've heard that they're often empty, even at the University of Minnesota. And I've personally come across at least one vending machine that charged me a whole $1 in quarters for one tampon. For comparison's sake, I can get about 54 of my preferred brand at Target for $7. I'm grateful to be a partner for this issue in the legislature, and I really want to encourage everybody to begin conversations about this with their friends, family, representatives. Menstrual supplies are not luxuries. Minnesota has led in this area before. We're one of the 12 states without the so-called pink tax on menstrual items, and with your passion, advocacy, and commitment, we can do this again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I'm State Representative Frank Hornstein, and I really, really appreciate this moment of solidarity. We need more moments like this, and I so appreciate your coming. I am working on a bill to address hate crimes. We know that in the Muslim and Jewish communities, hate crimes have been increasing dramatically over recent years. And when the firebombing at the Dar al-Farouk Mosque is not considered a hate crime, and when a swastika is painted on a school, it's not considered a hate crime in state law, something is wrong and we're working to correct it. We also want to make sure, that community groups are able to report hate crimes. And that's part of our statute, not just simply the responsibility of law enforcement. And we need to make sure that law enforcement are trained properly to address this. The last time that the Police Officer Standards Training Board updated its hate crimes manual was in 1990. A lot has happened in 30 years. And so we are working hard to update that and working with law enforcement to do that. Attorney General Keith Ellison had a number of listening sessions. We were in mosques, we were in synagogues, we were in community centers, we were in college campuses. there was an outpouring of interest and support, and people told some very, very impactful stories. So come support the hate crimes bill. Come tell your stories of how this has impacted our communities, and together we will be successful. I so appreciate your coming together, and I apologize I can't stay longer. I'm also in a committee hearing. There's some votes taking place that I have to be at. So, but thank you again, and I appreciate
I'm tagging in for Representative Hornstein. Hi. I'm Karen Moratz. I'm the Executive Director of Jewish Community Action, and we are leading the Work to Build a Community Coalition to support the bill that we're working on with Representative Hornstein. I can tell you just a little bit about what it does. We just don't believe that the state is collecting accurate data currently on incidents of hate in the state of Minnesota, and we don't think that we can actually make a plan to address them until we actually know what's happening. And so our bill will do two things. The first piece is it will mandate training for law enforcement in how to properly respond, not just to hate crimes, but to people who've experienced incidents of hate. We think that that is a gap. We've met with police chiefs who acknowledge, hey, our guys don't always know exactly how to respond or what to do, so we want to strengthen their ability to do that. The second piece, and this is where the data collection comes in, is that currently the only way that the state is really getting information about hate, incidents of hate, religious or gender or otherwise, is through law enforcement and law enforcement reporting, and we think that a lot of these things happen that don't get reported to law enforcement. And so what we want to do is open up a channel between the state, through the Department of Human Rights, and then community organizations like RISE and JCA and CARE and Out Front, so that the data that we know that we have, because our members report to us, we'll be able to actually make part of the state's picture and map of what's actually happening in Minnesota. We don't have a bill number yet.
Okay, and before we move on to rally, I just want to introduce the representatives that are here. If you want to come up, introduce yourself and say like one thing you're excited about this session.
Good morning, assalamu alaikum. It's a great honor to see all of you here. This is your house. This is the place that determines the future for everybody. And this is why I want you to be able to understand that we represent you. We are your voices here. Don't feel that you're left out. So my name is Mahmoud Nur. I'm a state representative representing District 60B in Minneapolis. That includes the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, University of Minnesota, Prospect Park, City Riverside, Seward neighborhood, Nicollet Island, Como neighborhood. So that's a huge area. But what I wanted to tell you is we're working on many issues like the one on hate crimes. We're also addressing the inequalities that exist in our society so that every person who is a Minnesotan has the opportunity to thrive and be able to succeed in their life. So I'm asking you to join us as we fight for a better future for Minnesota. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Good morning. Come on. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. So my name's Hodan Hassan, or Hodan Hassan if you want to be very technical about it. But I'm not going to challenge anybody to say it right. I'm a state legislator from South Minneapolis, everything north of Lake Street, south of Franklin. I go all the way to Lindale in Uptown and then Cedar. What I want to tell you is you guys are all bosses. Do you know who your employees are? Yes, yeah, we work for you, so you are our bosses. Come tell us what you want us to do. If you don't like what's happening in climate justice, in safety in your neighborhood, in your schools, when it comes to hate crimes, anything that you don't like about our world, you can change it. You have the power to change it because you elected us, and if we don't work for you, you get rid of us. It's that simple. I want you guys to acknowledge that you're here. Just feel that moment that you're here, and this is a very powerful moment. But I don't want this to be the last time you're here. I want this to be the first of many times. Do you promise?
Yeah.
Especially the young people. I want you guys to come back here. I want to see more hijabis. I want to see people who represent all Minnesota in this space. It can get lonely here. But for whatever you do, keep fighting. One Minnesota should look like this room. Thank you.
And it is lonely. I'm the only senator that's here for Thank you. I appreciate it. No, Sheena, thank you. And your kids are absolutely a hoot, and I appreciate the fact that your son is going to occupy my chair someday. And I just, I grant that. You know, a daughter too. Yeah. I'm John Austin, and I live in Champlin. My wife told me I'm not funny, so don't try to be funny. And she is correct. She spent 20 years as a radio and television funny person, and of course I'm not. So I'm not going to try to be funny. But also seriousness, this is what it's about. It's about you, right? You youth have given us a bright day today. And here's why. There's so much polarization that's happening out in our nation, and there's polarization that's even happening and occurring right here in Minnesota, right? You are the ones that can stop that polarization, right? You can remind us that we need to treat people like people first and above all, just like what I've heard here today. Do you agree with that? Yes. People should be treated like people, correct? Yes. Then why do we got to label everything, right? Let's stop that. And you can teach us to stop doing that. And so here's what I want you to do today. Become active and become a relationship with the person that is that elected official, right? Offer yourself as not only just here's the issue that's out there, but offer yourself as the solution to that issue, right? And make sure that you're letting them know that when stuff comes up, you're the person that they can go to, right? Does that make sense? It's real simple. You can do that. I call it the Marge Man theory. There was an issue 20 years ago, and there was an elected official that we needed a signature on. I was not an elected official. I was actually lobbying for children and youth with special health care needs. And we pulled this legislator out of his committee hearing, and we started telling him about deprivation and aversion. Did you know that school districts used to lock children in locked rooms, and they would restrain them in 5-point restraints? Yeah, they're still doing it to this day. Yes, they are still doing it. And so we needed a signature, and we went to the person. It was a thick bill, and it was a signature that we needed because he at the time was the minority leader. And we said, this bill absolutely will hold school districts accountable for taking the most vulnerable and locking them in rooms. Most vulnerable, his mind went, he looked at us and he said, what does Marge Mann think of this? Marge Mann is a parent that was from this person's area in Marshall, Minnesota, and we told him that she loved the bill. He took a pen and he signed the bill, said thank you, and he walked away. It was this thick. He didn't even read the whole bill. The fact is he had in his mind a person that he had a relationship with who he could trust, who said that they liked this bill. So what I'm saying is do that message, become that person, become that go-to person. Thank you for being here. You know what Paul Wellstone said? We all do better when we all do better. Let's keep doing that, okay?
It's hard to follow all of these people. My name's Heather Edelson. I represent Edina. Anybody know some stereotypes about Edina? Yeah, I know, right? So, well, there is every day. Yes, I know. Let's not share it. I would just tell you to check your stereotypes, because I grew up to a single mom on welfare. I had free lunch my whole childhood, and on criminal justice reform, I'm one of the biggest advocates. So you may think you know me when I tell you I represent Edina, but I promise you don't. And just like I think people make judgments about you, we have to stop that. Get to know people, learn their stories. There is power in our stories. And I'll keep it short because the senator talks a lot. Your story has power. I grew up as a little girl not knowing that my story did. Growing up through a mom that dropped out of high school, thinking that because I grew up poor that my story didn't matter. I promise you your story matters just as much as anybody else. Thank you.
Well, thanks to all of my colleagues, and of course thanks to all of you for being here. I'm State Representative Raymond Dean. I represent most of downtown Minneapolis and the southern part of North Minneapolis. And they've said everything, so I'm not going to repeat except two things. Climate crisis is real, And we need you to lead us, because unfortunately, I think many of us who had the chance back in the 70s, in the early 80s to make an impact, we didn't. So we need you to all speak up, and we should all apologize that we didn't make these changes long before they were going to be impacted, us as a species on this planet. And lastly, it's often said that it's really important that you know who your legislators are. I'm going to take that one step further. It's really important that your legislators know who you are. So spend your time, talk to them, get to know them, because you will be much, much more valuable to them when they know you than when it's just that you know them. So again, thank you all, and you guys should have a great day.
Once again, I'm Representative Carly Gatiza-Wattoon. I represent much of the city of Eden Prairie. I am the chief author of the Menstrual Equity Bill, and a couple of things that I'm excited to discuss this session are just equity, not only in menstruation, but in everything. And I just thank you so much for being here, for your collaboration amongst each other, for your collaboration with your representatives, for your collaboration with your neighbors. I also am the vice chair of the Early Childhood Subdivision and the chief author of House File 1, the Great Start for All Minnesota Children Act. And we are working to stem the opportunity gap, that persistent opportunity gap, by supporting our youngest Minnesotans and littlest learners and their families when and where they need it most. So continue having those conversations. All my colleagues have said such fabulous things, so thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you soon.